Inside of today's video, we're going to be covering some sneak peeks with finally the introduction of Hypercharge, giving you guys my thoughts, also 23 balance changes to go through, and of course we're going to be taking a look at all of the Hypercharges, whether they're OP or not. So starting off with one thing I was actually missed out on the Brawl talk, which not a lot of people spoke about. So it's a brand new gadget in the game, new super rare called Gadget Charge. So essentially you get an extra gadget with every single brawler in the game. So you can think of brawlers like Shelly, for example, it can be really toxic. So just imagine this gadget on brawlers like Squeak, full residue gadgets throughout the game. Or with brawlers like Carl, it's going to be really toxic because he's going to be able to combine his super and the flying hook so many times. All brawlers' values have gone up by 200% from power 1. Normally it was 150%, but basically making the game a lot more pay to win. However, they actually haven't even scaled up certain gadgets and star powers that have kind of numeric value to it. So for example, like Ambush, it still deals 800 extra damage. So if you think about it, it's going to get a lot less value as it goes on. You can also take a look at gadgets that have some type of healing as well. BB, only 600 healing per second. It's going to get basically indirectly a lot worse with the new update. So now diving into the juicy stuff. Everyone in the community is talking about Hypercharges, whether it's going to ruin the game or whether it's actually going to be really good. We're going to be going through every single brawler that has a Hypercharge, except for Pearl. We're not allowed to cover it just yet, but make sure to subscribe because I'll be doing a sneak peek on Pearl as well, giving you guys my thoughts. But anyways, jumping into it then. So there's 5 brawlers which we can cover today which have Hypercharges, which is Shelly, Cole, Bull, Jackie, and Spike. So first off, we have Shelly. So Shelly, I tested it as well, by the way, with Hypercharges. It will take roughly per brawler, just actually make a difference in some cases. I'll go into it, but it's about 2.5 supers until you can charge your Hypercharge. So you can just bear that in mind just in game. Of course, it's pretty hard to exactly count how many. For example, like Shelly, she takes 10 shots to get her super at maximum range, so it can be pretty difficult, but you'll just get the hang of it when you go into game. So the good thing about Shelly's Hypercharge is that her super is 33% larger. She also gets a 25% speed buff, a 25% damage buff, and 15% shield buff. So this is going to be absolutely insane. Shelly was just nerfed, but when you combine her with the brand new gadget gear and this Hypercharge, I feel like she's probably easily going to be the best brawler in the game again. Next Hypercharge is with Cole, and it's called dual wielding. So essentially with Cole, his super is 120% wider. He gets a 30% speed buff, a 30% damage buff, and a 10% shield buff, which is just absolutely insane. It roughly takes, again, 2.5 supers to fully charge up from 0 to 100, and it will take around, I believe, 31 bullets to charge it up. So quite a lot of bullets to charge it, but if you cycle in your supers and hitting those shots consistently, you'll be able to probably get a couple of these within a game. And again, this Hypercharge looks really good. You think about it, basically Colt super is pretty hit and miss at the moment, but with this, it's going to deal extra damage and just completely shred the opponents. I'm really scared for this Hypercharge. I feel like this one has potential to be broken as well. Spike's Hypercharge is called Blooming Season. So Spike's super will get a 20% larger area of cover. So if you combine this with Spike's mythic gear as well, this could be super toxic. So essentially he gets a 30% speed boost, a 20% damage boost, and a 20% shield boost as well when he pops that Hypercharge, which would just be absolutely insane. It takes 18 spikes to actually get the super, so still might take a little bit of a while considering it takes 7 spikes to get 1 super. But overall, again, this one's going to be really good. The only thing about Spike, it might be a little bit hard to utilize the Hypercharge or be really aggressive with him because of course he's still pretty squishy, but still 20% damage boost. And as I said, if you pair this with the mythic gear, I think this has some really toxic potential. I'm pretty scared like facing off against Spike. He's just going to completely delete you, especially if you're a tank. Next Hypercharge is with Bull, and it's called Jaws of Steel. So Bull will take 80% less damage while using his super. I kind of predicted this with the animation. It was pretty obvious, but anyways, he gets a 25% speed boost as well, a 10% damage boost, and a 30% shield boost. So I think Bull, he's going to be a lot better in the meta. I don't think he's going to be like usable everywhere, but inside of maps with a lot of walls, I think he's going to be able to thrive. Of course, that's where tanks do really well. It also takes him 23 shots to actually build up this Hypercharge, so a little bit of a faster charge rate, I believe, than some of the other brawlers. It takes 10 shots to get Bull's super, so just in comparison, so about 2.3 supers it will take to charge this up. But if you actually have the supercharge gear as well, which is really good with Bull, I just feel like it's going to be a lot more versatile. You also pair this with the brand new gadget gear as well. I feel like Bull actually will be a usable brawler. I'm not talking like an S tier. I mean, he could be with a Hypercharge depending on how broken it it is, but I feel like it could be at least minimum B tier, I think, with all of these changes combined. So moving on to the final Hypercharge, we have Jackie's called Seismic Event. And I feel like this one's probably the most underwhelming because Jackie's super only slows down the opponents for 1.5 supers. She gets a 25% speed boost, 25% damage boost, and 15% shield. So I don't think this is going to like make Jackie completely broken. Again, I could be wrong because Hypercharge does seem like a really strong mechanic. But of course, it will just leapfrog her completely away from the F tier. It will be minimum C tier in my opinion. I feel like it's going to be really good. It takes Jackie 4 hits to get super, and it takes her 12 hits to build, no, 10 hits to build this up. So 2.5 supers again to build up the supercharge. So I feel like it'll be really good. Also, the thing to note about Hypercharge, some quick tips, is that it's really good when you have your super, your of course your normal super, and you combine it with the Hypercharge. You're going to get that added boost. So you kind of want to use Hypercharge only when you have super, or at least when you're close to it, so you can surprise the opponents. And when you deal damage as well, it actually buffs the Hypercharge a little bit longer. So normally I think it lasts 5 seconds, but if you keep dealing damage and especially charging up your supers, you can actually keep the Hypercharge on for longer. So this really has the potential to be broken. In my opinion, I don't really like it too much because it just feels like an energy drink. At first, I was a little bit excited, but then I realized there could have been a lot more potential with this one. We'll have to try it out in game, but I'm a little bit scared this could be like the Clash Royale evolutions. So we've got a lot of balance changes to cover as well, starting off with Edgar. So Edgar, I'll be going through the old power 11 levels and the new ones, by the way, just so you guys get a little bit of comparison until we get used to it. But before, well, the old power 11, what we're used to now, he used to have 4,500 HP and they're buffing it to 4,950. So in comparison, a 450 HP buff with the new power 11 is going from 6,000 to 6,660. So Edgar's getting a big HP buff. I think he's going to be a lot better, especially with the gadget gear as well. I feel like the big problem with Edgar really was just cycling the supers. So you get an extra Let's Fly gadget, you get some extra HP. I feel like Edgar could be a lot better, even though Heist is removed from the rotation. I just feel like overall he's going to be a lot better in the 1v1s. So the worst brawler in the game, Hank, is finally receiving some more buffs, starting off with his HP. So in terms of his old power 11, he's going from 8,100 to 8,700. This correlates to 10,800 HP to the brand new 11,600. So in old form, it's an extra 600 HP, which is a considerate amount, getting towards the old 9,000, I believe, which you once had. And he's also getting a damage buff from 2,700 to 3,150. So that's his old power 11. His new one is 3,600 to 4,200. So a lot of numbers to really crunch on, but I think once we just get one update cycle in place, we'll get used to the new numbers. I just think this is going to be pretty good for Hank. I don't think it's going to make him broken again because I still feel like just not healing up. I don't know why they don't want to revert it, like the fact that you can't heal up whilst attacking, because I still feel like Hank just gets overwhelmed too easily. But this might be a good change. I see him at least being a little bit more viable now. So Buster has received 2 buffs with the brand new balance changes, his health and his damage. So starting off with the old power 11, 7,200 health is what he used to have, and with the update he has 7,800, so a 600 HP buff. So with the brand new power 11, 9,600 all the way up to 10,400. His damage is going from 1,980 to 2,160, which is his old power 11, and this will correlate to from 2,640 to 2,880. So a lot of numbers to crunch on, but essentially he's getting buffed quite a hefty amount in damage and HP. This is going to allow Buster to thrive a lot more. He's probably going to be towards the C or even B tier because, again, tanks don't really thrive too much in the meta, and it might be overpowered a little bit by Shelly, for example, but it's some good buffs which he'll definitely benefit from. This buff is actually my favorite buff out of all of them. It is with Byron. So his supercharge rate is going from 4 shots to 3 shots. So if we rewind back to when Byron was one of the best brawlers in the game, he only took 3 shots to build up his super, and his reload speed was actually a little bit faster than what it was today. But I feel like Byron's definitely going to receive a lot more love from this. I don't think he's going to go straight to the S tier because, again, I feel like he's a little bit too squishy. And with these hypercharges, I feel like he's going to get overwhelmed still a little bit. But I think it'll be towards probably like the B tier. It's going to be a lot more viable and a lot more of a support brawler to his teammates. So next up on the buff list, we have BB. So she's only getting a small HP buff from 6,900 to 7,200. So just 300 in old terms and a 400 HP buff in new terms. So I feel like this is going to help BB a little bit. She has been suffering for a long while, but with the introduction of Siege, she might get even better with a meta. We'll have to wait and see. Nani is receiving a buff and a nerf with a brand new update, starting off with a return to sender duration. It's going from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. So I like this change because it used to be a little bit toxic, the fact that you can just pop this gadget whenever, especially when you're facing off against like Piper, for example, or just any long-range brawler. It just offered too much value, just like Surge's shield. So I feel like they're doing that because they did it to Surge's shield. And also Nani's receiving a buff. So in terms of the damage, it's going from per projectile. She has 3 projectiles, of course, going from 1050 to 1200. So 150 damage buff before with the old power 11, and that correlates to an extra 200 damage with a brand new power 11. I feel like Nani's definitely going to be a little bit better in the meta. Next up on the buff list and nerf list, we have Piper as well. So they're doing the kind of same thing they're doing with Nani with Piper. So start off with a nerf. They're nerfing her homemade recipe homing by 33%. So essentially, it'll just be a little bit harder to hit the opponents. You won't just be able to tap the green button and hit them every single time. I feel like you'll have to at least be a little bit more precise with it. I still feel like it'll be a good gadget, especially with the gadget gear. You're going to have 4 homemade recipes now, so Piper's going to be a lot better. And also with the buff, she's receiving a max range damage buff. So before with the old power 11s, she used to deal 2280 damage at max range, and now it's 2550. So that's like a 300 damage buff at maximum range, and also that correlates to an extra like 400 damage with a brand new power 11. So I really like this with Piper. I feel like she's needed some love for a while. I think she's going to be a lot more of a viable option. So next up on the buff list, we have Mandy. So her damage is being increased by 150. So she deals right now in the game 1800, and she's going to go up to 1950. So this is an extra 200 damage in the new power 11 terms. I feel like this is definitely needed with Mandy because she's been suffering for a while. She's going to have a little bit more oomph in her shot. So next up on the buff list, we have Leon. So his HP is getting buffed by 300. So right now he has 4800 HP. It's going to 5100. So again, in power 11 terms, in the brand new ones, it's an extra 400 HP. So Leon, ever since the Vision rework, I thought he was going to be a lot better, but he's just been overshadowed by a lot of other brawlers. So now this extra HP will allow him to make more plays. I feel like it's definitely going to get a lot better. Next up on the buff list, we have Sandy. So Sandy's Supercharge is going from 7 hits to 6 hits. So Sandy already was getting a little bit better, mainly because Tara is such a dominant brawler in the meta. So Sandy being a direct counter to her already was making Sandy a little bit better, but still it took so long for Sandy to get supers, especially against so many different compositions that could just outrange Sandy and not feed him super. So I think this is going to be a really big change and could definitely leapfrog him to be one of the best brawlers in Gem Grab and Brawl. Next up on the buff list, we have a buff with Fang, which I'm really excited about. I definitely tried to push towards this one, but Fang is getting a buff in his super damage. So this is actually going to be an indirect buff, of course, to fresh kicks, because you're going to be able to kill the opponent with your super a lot easier. It's getting buffed by 300 damage, and in the new power 11 terms, it's an extra 400 damage, which is going to be really nice. As I said, you're going to be able to cycle that super a lot easier, and also you're going to increase in his super gain from super, which I tried to test it out. I'm not too sure how that really works or how it really influences him, but I think it's going to make Fang a lot better of a brawler, because again, you're going to get so much value out of his super now. And finally, on the buff list, we have Willow. So Willow, for the longest time, has been pretty underwhelming in the meta, mainly because her super can be so toxic that they're probably scared to make her meta, but she's getting a HP buff, and it's quite substantial. It's like an extra 500 HP. It's going from 3,750 to 4,200. So that's an extra 600 HP in the brand new power 11 terms, which I think is really going to help her out. Already she was a pretty underrated pick, but only when like Barley was banned, for example. But now she might actually be the go-to option. So now we're moving on to the nerfs, which a lot of people are going to love to see. So the first one is going to be with Squeak. So Squeak is receiving 2 nerfs. First to his residue gadget, going from a 10-second duration to 8 seconds, which is going to be fantastic. But then you're going to deal with the gadget gear, which in turn you're actually going to be dealing with more residues on the map. So I don't know how to feel about that one. A little bit of a backhanded compliment in a way. And chain reaction is receiving a nerf from 20% extra damage to 15%. So all things considered, Squeak is definitely going to get worse in the meta, but it's still going to be a really toxic option, especially in Power League. Next up on the nerf list, we have Bonnie. So Bonnie's main projectile speed is going from 4,000 to 3,800. So it's actually pretty hard to completely show it in game, but I think once you get your hands on Bonnie, you'll be able to tell how much slower it is. So it only seems like a minus 200, which doesn't seem a lot in relative terms, but it does actually seem like a lot. I feel like you're going to be able to dodge Bonnie shots a lot easier. And then I feel like Sugar Rush, of course, has got an indirect nerf as well. It's not going to be as beneficial. Overall, I feel like this might really hurt Bonnie and push her pretty far down the meta. So next up on the nerf list, we have Crow. So his extra toxic star power is going from 20% damage reduction to 15% damage reduction. So overall, that's like a 10% nerf from what it used to be a couple of months ago, which I really like. I feel like that's now going to be a tough decision on which star power to go, whether you go this one or carrying Crow. But also Crow, I feel like it's been nerfed, but then buffed because he's getting an extra gadget to his slowing toxin. So if anything, Crow could actually be getting even better again, even though received another nerf. Next up on the nerf list, a lot of you guys will be very happy about this. I am definitely. It is with Tick, and his main attack reload speed is being increased by 4%. So the reason why he's been nerfed is because Tick was always the go-to option in Bounty and Knockout. He was literally first picked all of the time, or just banned if the opponent had first pick, of course. So toxic. So now I feel like he's gonna, of course, not keep the opponents back for as long as he used to be able to. You used to be able to spam out shots relentlessly. And you might actually now have the choice between automatic and well-oiled, because I feel like his reload speed is so slow now. I love it. And moving on to the final balance change, we have Tara. So her HP is going down 150 with the old power 11 terms, so 4,800 to 4,650. So that's a 200 HP nerf in the brand new power 11 terms. I feel like Tara has been dominating for a while, but again, she kind of got an indirect buff with the brand new gadget gear. Being able to spawn 4 lots of pets can be very toxic and very overwhelming. Of course, they don't get an extra HP buff like they probably should, but still, it's going to waste a lot of ammo. So if anything, I feel like Tara could actually be getting better. And finally, we're going to be going through the maps, which a lot of people really like to see. I'm going to just speed run through it because I've just spent so much time going through hypercharges and also balance changes. So with Gem Grab right now, there's only 4 maps, which basically a lot of maps have been removed and Last Stop has been added. And then with Showdown, there are still 8 maps, I believe, in the game, but 2 have been disabled, Double Trouble and Scorch Stone, but Dried Up River and Dark Passage has been added. And then with Heist, I think it's been removed from the rotation, but still in friendly rooms, we only have 4 maps available. The same with Bounty as well. It's been removed from Ladder, but you still get to see it in friendly rooms. With Brawl, there are 8 maps still, with the introduction of Stepping Stones and also the introduction of Penalty Kick again. Yeah, we all love that map. Not with Siege. We have 4 maps, which everyone really knows, so don't really need to go through them. With Hot Zone, we have only 4 maps as well. This has been removed from the rotation, so only in friendly rooms and Power League, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. Knockout has 4 maps as well. You guys are familiar with all of these ones. Wipeout as well. All of them are pretty much the same except for Slayer. Oh no, Slayer's Paradise is in the game already, but also Layer Bake as well. So in terms of Power League as well, I will put it on the screen with what the maps are. There's only 4 game modes at the moment, with only 2 maps to choose from. So I feel like Power League isn't really going to be as fun next time. But that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you think of all the balance changes, all the hypercharges, and whatever else. I'll probably be uploading a bunch of videos and also streaming to give you guys my honest opinions on it. But that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.